to go over the document that I handed out, Tacoma Senior Living Community Tour. We're going to go over, this was my entry. I didn't have privy to see anybody else's entry, so this is my entry. This one won the Judges Innovation Award this year. So I thought I'd go over the wording I used and some of the strong points that might have caught the judges' attention when they were reading it. I thought that might be helpful. So it was written in 5 paragraphs, as you can see: the situation and marketing objectives, the action, the creativity, the results, and the budget. So I followed the outline exactly with those headings, which you need to do. There's a situation and marketing objectives. So the very first paragraph I put in there: after attending a national leading age conference, I came away with a great idea that had never been done in the state of Washington. Well, that's going to catch the judge's attention right off. Boy, it's never been done in Washington State. Then, a little bit farther down, we collaborated between our leading age Washington not-for-profit communities, but also with our for-profit community competition as well. So the judges, I think that really resonated with them, is not only our nonprofit partners, but our for-profit partners. And then the purpose of the event, and I outlined what the purpose was. We wanted to show a united front in helping seniors find a living solution. We wanted to provide a relaxed, non-pressure tour where seniors could ask a lot of questions and not feel like they were given the old sales spiel. It made it easy for seniors to compare 5 communities in one day, and our goal was to generate 50 tours, and that was the metric that we used, 50 tours. So you need to put some kind of metric in there, whether even if it's a advertising campaign, social media, whatever you're doing, the metric needs to be in there. So the action I divided into 3 paragraphs. The first paragraph talked about how we planned the event. The second paragraph talked about how did we market the event. And the third paragraph talked about how did we implement the event. So the planning. I called 4 of our competitors and told them about the idea and asked them if they wanted to partner with us, which they did. They were all excited about it. We met February through July to plan the event. Together we brainstormed and decided on all the details. We worked together, and people wanting to participate in the event had a RSVP line to call. So that was the planning part of the action. The second part of the action was the marketing part. How did we market this event? Talked about print advertising, direct mail, flyers, etc. How many flyers and all that we did, who was the target, so the whole marketing end of it. And then the third paragraph, how was it implemented? It was implemented on this day, at this time. Participants received a bag with a complete tour brochure, a map, community comparison chart, contact information, etc. They toured the first community, they boarded the van, they went to the next community, toured all the next community, and then we had a person on the van that talked about the community that we were going to. So once we got there, they had a bit of a description of what that community was going to be like. Then at that community, they got a 15-minute presentation, pricing, brochures, a nice snack that highlighted the chefs at each community. They saw 2 or 3 apartments. They could ask all the questions they wanted. Then at the end, they filled out a contact information card, and we put it into an entry so they could win a prize. And then all the marketing directors shared all the contact information so we could follow up with them. So that was sort of the action part. The creativity. The best thing I could come up with creativity was it had never been done in the state before. And that we worked together to help seniors make finding a community easy. The results, it needed to be tied back to the objectives. So what were the objectives that I wrote? We wanted to collaborate with other senior communities. We wanted to have a united front to show seniors that we truly care about finding the best solution for them. We wanted a relaxed atmosphere so seniors could feel comfortable and ask as many questions as they wanted. We wanted to make it easy for them to compare 5 communities in one day, and we wanted 50 tours. That was the objective. So when you write the results part of it, each of the 5 communities was thrilled with the results. We had 70 tours. So we had 20 more than we had anticipated.
Wow.
And not only that, 80% of the attendees had never visited any of our communities before. So both those metrics were really important to point out. A little farther down, the participants were talking with each other, comparing stories. All the participants sort of got a camaraderie going between them. They were all smiles, they were hugging us, shaking our hand, thanking us for having this tour. And one lady on my van, I was the van person for Frank Toby Jones, told me, she said, I could never get my husband to tour all these communities, especially in one day. I've tried to get him to go to just a couple communities, and that was even too much for him. The thoughts seem so overwhelming, but you've made it so very easy. Thank you so much. So I put a quote in there from one of the participants, which I think was strong for the judges. And then at the end, I said, it really made us feel good that we had made a difference for them and that they felt so good about it. So that's the results part. Oh, and then the other part of the results was at our wrap-up meeting in September. We compared notes. So did any of the communities have move-ins? Well, 4 of the 5 communities had at least one move-in from the tour. We were able to add all the contacts to our contact management system. We already had a great working relationship between the 5 communities, but it really built a strong bond between us, and we communicate a lot more now. So we have a much better relationship together. And then I called each community early this year to say, hey, do you want to do it again this year? And they were like, of course we want to do it again this year. So as a result, that was part of the results, that they were enthusiastic about doing it a second time. And then the budget and resulting cost effectiveness. The very first line, traditionally not-for-profit retirement communities have very small marketing budgets. So one of the major benefits was splitting the cost between all 5 communities. You gotta remember the judges are coming from mostly from for-profit businesses, ad agency, design firms, architecture firms. They have huge budgets. So they spend a lot of money. So they needed to know that we don't have a lot of money. So we had to do it on a shoestring. So then I gave all the costs. The senior scene gave us a 10% discount. They ran a nice article next to the ad, and I should have put in here the value of that article, and I didn't, but that would have been a strong thing to add. The Tacoma News Tribune matched dollar for dollar, so we were able to run 2 ads instead of 1. The creative done was in-house by me, so it wasn't super great, but it was okay. Direct mail, postcards, printing, mailing services, and postage, $4,700. A 10-page passport was about $650. All the flyers, $620. There's also the cost of the van driver for the day, food, and a giveaway bag, which is approximately $400 per community. There was no additional cost for the tour staff because they were already scheduled to work that day. The total cost was $8,986 or $1,797 per community that brought in 70 tours, which is $30 a person. So I'm thinking, will that mean anything to the judges? Well, $30, they can't compare that. So I said, according to the National Investment Conference, NIC, in 2011, the latest data which I had, the average cost per sale was $4,500. And since 4 of the 5 communities had at least one resident moving from the tour, the cost was even more incredibly reasonable. So for the judges reading this, they're going, wow, they did all this, did all these tours, it matched their objectives, blah, blah, blah. So you can see, when you write it, be thinking about what are the judges going to ask and what's going to impress the judges and what metrics can you use to go back and compare that to how successful the event or ad campaign, social media, whatever it is you're entering is. If you can make that really strong, I think it really impresses the judges. Any questions about how to write it up or?
Did you say you had only one driver? We had more than one driver.
No, each community had a driver.
Oh.
We each had our own van going.
Chris, do you want to share what happened this year with the numbers?
Yeah, this year, we did it again this year in August. We had 125 tours.
Oh my goodness.
Phone was ringing off the hook. We had to turn people away. People were driving behind the vans and the cars. It was amazing. We all had move-ins. We tweaked a few things.
Amazing.
And when we got together again this year, I said, hey, do you want to do it again next year? Let's do it twice. So we're doing it in February and August. I'm not sure how the February one will be with the weather, but after Christmas, I know a lot of people are thinking, oh, I just saw my parents and I think we need to make some changes.
Yeah.
So it'll be February 17th and August 17th. And it was cool because this year we got to add one community that couldn't do it last year, so we had 6 communities this year, which even spread the costs out further. And we kind of tweaked, we actually expanded our mailing list to 13,000 this year, whereas last year I think we only mailed to about 8,000. So I think expanding that direct mail list really helped a lot. Most everybody who called in, we would ask when they called in to make a reservation, how'd you hear about this? Most everybody said the postcard. Very few people saw the ads or anything else we were doing. Direct mail was very, very effective.
Do they, on that RSVP, is it going in one community or?
The Tacoma Lutheran Home took all the RSVPs.
Wow.
So she had the number of people that each van could fill, and she'd just start filling them. They call in and we'd fill them all up, and then at the very end says, sorry, you know, they were full.
So they start at one community,
Mhm.
and then each community has its own van, and they go to, each van takes it to their
The
own
next-
community?
So each, like, it's, a van started at Toby Jones, at the Weatherly, at the Narrows Glen, at Tacoma
Oh,
Lutheran
at
Home,
their own,
at
okay.
their own community, and then it was like this big rotate, so we kept driving to the next community. And this year, the timing worked out so well that as we were pulling up, the last van was pulling away.
Wow.
Every time, it was just, the timing worked out so well. Didn't work quite as well last year, the timing, but we added a little more time in each community this year, about an hour in each community. By the end of the tour, people were exhausted.
I was
I
gonna
mean,
say,
just
I don't know if they can do
exhausted.
5 tours a day.
Yeah.
I was
Oh, I was.
exhausted.
Yeah.
Our salespeople were exhausted.
Mhm.
But what really works when you do that too is if you have 20 people or 25 people in the tour, you need to split them up to 5 or 6 people. So you have to have a lot of tour guides that day and have different routes that you're going on so you're not running into each other.
Do you have an idea of the age range of folks that felt they could participate in an all-day marathon tour? I mean, what?
There was a
would
lot of
attract
older
younger
people. It was surprising, a lot of 80-year-olds.
Really?
Wow.
But on the phone, we did say we can't really accommodate wheelchairs because the vans didn't. It said if you have a wheelchair, you need to go in a wheelchair, you need to drive yourself. And we did have a few of those, but not too many.
And
The other
so
thing-
walkers? I mean,
Walkers,
lots of walkers?
not too many walkers,
Not too
some,
many,
and some canes. But most people were pretty much, we told them that it's walking. And this year in the ad, we're gonna put, there's a lot of walking, wear comfortable shoes, which we didn't put in the ad last time. The other thing that's kind of fun is that each place they get to eat. And it really shows off the chefs. And they eat at every place, like a little appetizer type thing. I'm like, wow, and the last one, holy cow.
Dinner style, I like it.
Breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Right, exactly. So we
Well,
did
that
sort of
kept
a,
their energy level up, that was good. You know,
Yeah.
nobody was,
Yeah.
you know, famished or anything.
right, it actually
They would
did.
hydrate them and feed them at every station.
So
Yeah.
you said the first one you had one move-in for each 4
Community.
communities. What about this last one this year?
I think well actually Frank W. Jones didn't, but I think every other community did, and some had 2 or 3. Yeah, which was very good. And this year, we printed a bag with all of our logos on it together. So they got one bag at the beginning of the tour, and they just carried it with them and they could stick the stuff in there,
Very nice.
which was nice.
And Chris, I have a question. For your postcard that you sent out, the direct mail, what were the RSVP choices? Like, was it a business reply card or was it phone in?
Phone in only. And it was quite busy. And we only mailed the postcards as like 2.5 weeks out from the event, so it was quite busy. I encourage all of you to do this in your community. It is so fun, and it really draws your competition with you together, because you're probably all friendly competition as well. And I tell you, the participants really were so appreciative both times. They thanked us so many times. So I encourage you to do it. So if you're writing up an entry for an ad campaign or a social media campaign, it's very different than writing up an event. So you have to really be thinking about those categories a little bit differently.